forgot how to live stream.
Well,
It
they
should
spell
show
live
up
stream
in-
with a U up there, so it's easy
with
to
an
get
E at the
confused.
end. It's live stream with an E at the end. Hi, everybody. I think we should be here now. There we are.
Okay, I'm still waiting for us, but
I see us. Okay. Good to see you guys.
Hey.
We are both in different cities. I'm in Montreal, and Alonso is in beautiful Greenville, South Carolina. So if things are a little squirrely right now, we apologize. Please let us know how we sound, because we are on different mics.
We're reporting from the field.
We are. But Superman came out. We want to talk about Superman with you. So thanks to all of you who are sharing some time with us on a Friday afternoon in the summer. I feel like I need to center up my shot. How's that? Even better. All right. Phew. Good to see you. Happy Friday. Superman has been out for about a week, so now it's time to do a live spoiler talk about it. We're glad to have you here with us. And then Eddington is also out there, which I don't really want to get into, but FYI, our Eddington review, if you're looking for that, has been out there for a few days. And so that is very, very divisive in the world, as Ari Aster intended for it to be.
No doubt.
Yes. Good to see you all. Micah says, Bradley Cooper, baby. When that came up, I'm like, is that Bradley Cooper? So he is Jor-El and he's Rocket Raccoon, and that's called range.
Well, he is firmly in. He maybe not as much as oh God, why don't the names fly out of my head the second I need them? The guy who plays Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion, is it?
Nathan Fillion.
Maybe not that firmly in the James Gunn universe, but firmly enough. Yes.
James Bunt says Alonso sounds super deep. Like your voice is deeper than usual. Seth says all good on the audio visual front. Thank you. Stephen says we have excellent sound and we are well lit. Thank you. Good to see you. Marty says it's showtime. Marty, I'm in your country. I'm in Canada. It's good to be here. Okay, so Leah says, I feel like a few years from now, people are going to be more objective about Superman and not like it as much as they do at the moment. That's interesting. Why is that? Hi, Brent. Met our good friend Brent Luthold. Go check out his channel, Awake in the Dark. He says, y'all are right about both Eddington and Superman. So these movies that are meant to be divisive. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, look, going back to Leo's statement, I think most movies, obviously, as time progresses, people think differently about them, and maybe initial enthusiasms wane or initial criticisms are overcome. So that's not uncommon, and you may indeed be right, but I think it speaks to how much the current zeitgeist, is responding to this movie because of its messages of, kindness and tolerance and welcoming the outsider and, bringing down the megalomaniacal billionaire. It's hitting right now in a way, and so that always helps.
I find it so amusing that people are criticizing it with the hashtag super shit, hashtag super woke, which is straight from the monkeys pounding out.
Exactly. Yes.
Comments.
This movie criticizes its own critics, which is great.
Pretty funny. Thank you, Lewis Cook, for your kind donation. Thank you for being a channel member for so long. Lewis says, I've seen this 3 times now, and the scene with the kids raising the flag for Superman always gives me chills. This movie does an excellent job of showing how Superman is a symbol of hope to people. Yeah, I agree. And we have seen so many dark takes on this character, on superheroes in general, whether it's, Zack Snyder or Nolan's take on Batman. And so there's a purity about this depiction of Superman that is necessary. It feels good right now.
Yeah, it feels like a palliative, not just to, like I said, to the zeitgeist, but also to those last few movies. Look, if you like the Snyder movies, good on you, and go with God. But I don't know that this character loans itself to that kind of thing. Like even Alan Moore, who arguably started the whole dark superhero trend with Watchmen and later sort of came to regret it, has written some really great Superman stories, like, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow or For the Man Who Has Everything. And they are not, grim and gritty. They meet Superman where he is, and he is happy to work within that world. And so I think that where Gunn is getting his inspiration from stuff like the Superman for All Seasons is this kind of like classic look, and it works, it plays. And anyway, we'll get into all of this, but
no, that's all really good. I appreciate you saying all that. Yeah. David says I don't like any of Zack Snyder's movies. Yeah, those are either a love or hate him
Dawn of the
kind of
Dead.
thing.
I'll give him Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. So let's talk about what all happens here that we couldn't talk about in our spoiler-free review. And please feel free to chime in the chat about things that you want to address specifically. I made just like a little list of stuff that seemed meaningful. Started with the fact that his parents sent him to Earth to dominate it. You know, he didn't know that part of the recording for so long. He only knew like you were sending you down here. And then when Lex Luthor and his crew invade the Fortress of Solitude and find the rest of the, they restore the audio on that. It's shocking to him and it shakes him. What do you make of that interpretation of Superman's purpose here?
I mean, it's a new take, but I think it's one that kind of makes sense. I mean, if you have this like super advanced civilization and you're sending your kid to this mud hole on the other side of the universe, of course you're going to be like, look, you've got to drag them into the future. And if that means conquest, then so be it. And the fact that he doesn't assume that mantle because he has been raised on Earth, because of the love of the Kents, because of his relationship with Lois, because of all the things that make Superman, or at least make Clark, he rejects that notion that Earth is this backwards civilization that has to be saved by him. He wants to uplift humanity, but he doesn't want to take it over. And making that choice, I think, is part of what makes him a hero.
Yeah, the innate goodness in him. And is a nature nurture debate that would be kind of interesting, right? Did he come out that way in Krypton, or did Mom and Pa can't make him that way?
Sure, yeah, and I think part of the reason why Luthor never understands Superman is because he can't fathom having that degree of power and not using it for conquest, and not using it to manipulate other people, and not using it to, for his own self-interest. Like, Luthor can't grasp that notion. And so, of course, all he can do is try and bring this guy down with whatever power he has, because that's how he sees the use of power,
Yeah, Heather says Ma and Pa Kent, secret heroes. Yeah, and you see how important, as an adult they are to him. He wants to go back at his lowest point. He wants to go lowest, not lowest point, lowest point with Lois, and revisit them to get fortified,
Yeah, and I think there's been a weird discussion about how the Kents are presented in this movie. I think they're great. I think the fact that they aren't, these iconic, Kevin Costner types that you've got, like Pruitt Taylor Vince, who looks like a Kansas farmer, but have still nonetheless taken in this child, raised him, and imbued him with this sense of morality. Like, they are heroes, and they may not be as sort of slick and photogenic as previous versions of the Kents, but I think that gives them a real sort of truly kind of American sense of honesty and fair play that they have passed along.
There's an interesting conversation going on here in the comments that I want to get to, and that is whether or not that portion of the recording is real, or whether Lex Luthor created it.
I think it is real, because there's a part where like Luthor says to somebody like privately, that it's real. And I think that the movie, if it weren't, the movie would have had some moment at the end where somebody steps forward and says, that's not what the actual Kryptonian, blah, blah, blah. I think it's true. And I think that James Gunn is being like, these may be the birth parents and this is their point of view, but Kal-El is rejecting that point of view and becoming a citizen of Earth and becoming a member of the human race, even though he is superhuman.
Yeah, Brent says, I know the movie confirms that the second half of the recording isn't faked and is authentic, and yet for the way people react, it almost doesn't matter because people will believe what they want.
Sure, and whatever
which
the
is the point of Eddington.
Typing. Also that, yes, true.
And Keenan says, it was very silly to me how quickly everyone agreed that it's a real message, but that 5 people have to say this is real, no way it's fake. So I guess, yeah, that plays into our notion about like conspiracy theories and deep fakes and AI and
yeah. What Epstein files? There's no such thing. I mean, Obama created them. I mean,
that's a whole other conversation. Let's talk about the whole the whole pocket universe scene. I thought that was really powerful and really well done from like a tonal perspective, and also just visually, in that you can really follow and get literally and figuratively swept up in this river where he's holding up the evil baby. Like that to me what I was referring to when I said this is like the weird side of James Gunn's sense of humor, like that he's like very gently holding up this like bizarre looking green baby. Let's talk about that.
Well, the pocket universe, a thing I like about it, the movie doesn't overkill, but it definitely is there, is like Luthor has created this thing for his own convenience, to like hide people that he wants to get rid of, to like smuggle things to whatever. And of course, it's ripping the universe apart, but does he care? No. You know, this is like his fracking, basically, that it's like he has use for this, whatever the consequences are, be damned, he doesn't really care. As a person who grew up reading comics, I was thrilled to see Metamorpho, aka Rex Mason, the Elemental Man, and I thought that was a very neat and tidy solution to the where do we get kryptonite from conundrum.
Yeah, that was a cool way to introduce kryptonite to this, and you see viscerally how that impacts him. And just the idea of like disappearing your enemies.
Yeah, exactly.
So relevant.
It's a black site, you know. It's like sending him off to Gitmo or whatever. You know, I mean, like, because kryptonite has this fascinating history. I don't know. It wasn't invented in the comics. It was created for the radio show. The actor playing Superman was going to be like on vacation for a week or two, and they had to figure out how to get rid of him for a while. So they created kryptonite to put Superman out of commission, so that the show would just be all the other characters dealing with stuff. And then it made its way into the comics. And then, like in the early 70s, you could tell they were sick of kryptonite, so they actually destroyed all of it on Earth for a while. But then it eventually kind of came back and stuff. But yeah, this one, it's like, where would you find kryptonite? You get the guy who creates it, and you hold his son hostage to force him to do what you want. You know, it's like, okay, yeah. And Metamorpho is such a great, cool, weird character. I'm glad he's in these movies now.
So I didn't know anything about him before.
He was like a circus performer, I want to say, and he falls in love with this woman who is the daughter of a horrible, monstrous, rich industrialist. And the industrialist, I'm sure there's various origin stories. The one I remember is the industrialist forces Rex to do like some sort of experimental thing, and it turns him into this freak, but it also gives him the ability to manifest anything on the periodic table.
Yeah.
So he can turn himself into hydrogen. He can create, you know, lead or diamonds or whatever, and that's his thing.
It seems like a scary thing to have control over. Like the power would just seem infinite, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, he's always been kind of a tortured character because, like, he loves this woman, and the father's always getting in the way because he's rich and powerful. But yeah, I you know, look, if we get a Justice Gang movie, he's going to be in it. So hooray!
David says the visual effects in the Pocket universe was the only thing I had issues with. The scene where Superman's floating in the Proton River looked a little bad. That was not the movie I wanted to be watching. It sounds like he's trying to say. Yeah, I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah,
given what they're trying to convey here.
Nothing stood out to me as like jarringly, like, you know, green screeny or whatever. And we saw it in IMAX, so you know.
Yes. Seth says one moment I love was when Superman smashes into Luthor's office looking for crypto, and I wanted him to pummel Lex, but he's a better person than me and had restraint, even with a dog napper. Yeah, you think he's going to turn into John Wick at some point, you know, looking for his dog. And I love that that it shows his goodness, that this dog who is a total pain in the ass.
Yes.
He still feels protective toward, and then we realize at the end,
it's his cousin's dog.
That is not my dog. It's Supergirl's dog. And so the fact that he cares so much, I think, is a lot about his purity. Hi, Teddy. Good to see you. Thank you for your kind donation. Teddy says, love it, hate it. I thought it was aggressively mid. Dumping us into a fully stocked DCU meant little time to get to know any of the characters. What do you think about that, Alonso?
Look, I think it was given how many origin stories we've had to sit through over the last few years. I kind of like the fact that we're just thrown into it with the assumption of like, rocketed to Earth, you get it, you know it, you'll understand it. I thought Lois really emerged as a fascinating character here in a way that I think, as much as I love Margot Kidder, I felt like this character was more. She kind of spearheads the rescue of Superman. She's the one who goes to the Justice Gang and is like, hey, guys, we gotta, So, like, I thought that she was interesting. I love Mr. Terrific. Did they go super deep on anybody? Maybe not. But I felt like in terms of laying the groundwork for stuff without being that sort of Marvel, here's what the next 3 movies are going to be, that it was effective that way. Going back to the thing about wanting to punch Luthor, I think one of the biggest fantasies that this movie has to offer is the idea that Luthor would have a perp walk at the end, which is, I think, we all really want to see and just never get, and unless the guillotines come out, I don't know that we're gonna ever get that. But that was very satisfying.
Yeah, for sure. And Superman is a better man than that. We all want to punch beautiful Nicholas Hoult in the face, but he is. He just says golly gosh and keeps going. David points out that Rachel Brosnahan was brilliant casting as Lois because she has this incredible every woman quality to her. It's very relatable, much more than previous iterations. She's spiky and quick-witted, and that speaks to her strength as a journalist. But then you also feel the emotional connection in that interview scene with Clark / Superman, as far as what that means, that she can get to him in a way that really nobody else can.
That she's willing to ask the tough questions, and that there are tough questions to ask of Superman, I think, is a thing that the movies haven't really dwelled upon before. Like, when we did our Out of the Theater reaction, people in the comments were like, oh, geopolitics, sure, whatever. Like, no, really, geopolitics. Like, that comes up in this movie, and the idea of Superman as a figure in the world of politics and frontiers and wars and whatever else matters. One of the things, going back to Alan Moore and Watchmen, he said one of the things that kind of motivated him in writing it is that a world with superheroes in it would be not the world that we recognize. It would inherently change so many things in terms of science and diplomacy and whatever else, I think I love that this movie is willing to get into these kind of complicated waters of like, what if Superman decides to step into a border conflict? Then what?
And as Lewis points out, when they raise the flag there in that war zone, it's very meaningful. That it's a child with belief, who is not cynical yet.
And it's not a flag of a country; it's a flag of him.
Right. Yes, true. Heather says, will Christy ask local Montrealers the proper French Canadian way to pronounce Fillion? Is it not Fillion? It's like Fillion. I don't know. You speak French, Alonso.
2 years of high school French, but ask them how they say Vatican, because that was an ongoing thing in the movie Aileen.
Yes, Vatican. Teddy says, where did the kaiju come from? Did they explain that? Is it from the Pocket Universe?
I've only seen it once, so maybe the person who's seen it 3 times wants to launch in on that one. Maybe. I don't know.
Mayor of Earth says, does the kaiju need to be explained? It was something LexCorp had.
True. Yeah. They cloned Superman, and they've got, this other woman that they've given enhanced powers to. So who knows what they can do over there in that lab. I would, a quick plug, this week on Maximum Film, we had Superman superfan Michael Hartney from UCB New York as our guest, and he actually added 3 scenes to the movie that he thought would make it like perfect. And one of them involves the kaiju, so it's worth checking out.
Okay, Brent says the kaiju coming from the back of the van. Next question. He wouldn't Lex just have a kaiju lying around just to
probably, in one of the field offices. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Stephen says we get international diplomacy in Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns with Superman and the island of Cordo Maltese.
True. Yes, absolutely. But the idea, and again, it comes up in Watchmen, the notion of like, if America can claim a superhero for itself, then that obviously puts, detente at risk, because it's a gap. We have a superhero gap if one country has one and another one doesn't. So.
Also, besides fighting the kaiju, he fights this giant robot.
Yes, which kicks his ass, by the way. And that's the thing. Another thing about these movies that's always tricky is like Superman is so, invulnerable. Like, how do you show him getting beaten down? And like in Superman 2, he renounces his powers and all that stuff. But here, like, you've got this robot that can that beats the crap out of him. He spends most of the movie kind of in a vulnerable position, if you think about it. He doesn't sweep in and do a lot of super heroics. He's getting saved a lot by Crypto, by the Justice Gang, by Lois, and but at the same time, I think is not a passive character by any means as well. So I think that we're dealing with we're now multiple generations in of people who proudly grew up reading comic books, making movies. And so I think that unlike, say, some of the stuff that we got in the 70s and 80s, like I don't know that Richard Donner, for as much as he got Superman right, like was super steeped in the comics the way that like subsequent generations of nerds have been. And believe me, subsequent generations of nerds have gotten it wrong a lot. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like in the way that Whedon in the first Avengers really understands how group comics work and, those dynamics, I feel like Gunn gets Superman in a way that we haven't really seen before. And he's also sort of like fleshing out the DC universe in a way that we haven't seen before, that obviously it's going to be more than just this one movie to see if he really nails the landing. But I think we're off on a good start.
Yeah. And going back to the idea of him being vulnerable, he is that way from the very beginning. Like the first, after we see like the title cards, first time we see him on screen, like he's lying in the snow and he's bleeding and he needs his dog to come and rescue him. Which I think is a bold position to put your superhero in, and an interesting place to create an arc him from. We have a question about, Mayor of Earth says, can we also talk about the ballsiness of Hawk Girl finishing off a politician? Gunn really going there,
I love, I mentioned this in my review in the wrap. Like, one of my favorite comic runs ever was the 80s Justice League that Keith Giffen and James DeMatteis did with Guy Gardner, with like Batman, and a lot of B-listers, Fire and Ice and Martian Manhunter, and and they very much didn't get along, and it was hilarious. And the bits of stuff that we get of just like the Justice Gang hanging out at the Hall of Justice, another nice shout out.
So cool.
And the fact that they are indeed assembled by Maxwell Lord, played here briefly by Gunn's brother, whose name is flown out of my head. I'm thinking, okay, yes, more of this, please. But yeah, I like. The United States government never really comes into play here. This whole border conflict is presented as a thing that Luthor is basically bankrolling and supporting, and so this movie is kind of acknowledging that nowadays it's less about nations and more about corporations.
Right. We have all those government figures, including Frank Grillo, sitting around that table, but they can't achieve what Superman can.
Right. And they won't, and they don't want to meddle into what Luthor's up to either.
Yeah, lots of helpful folks chiming in that Sean Gunn is
thank you.
Brother of James, and he is indeed in everything. I want to go back to a comment that somebody made. Screen Prism says, I think one of the reasons people will not like Superman as much is because of its treatment of women. The women, except for Lois, were underdeveloped, and most were eye candy and or dehumanized, mostly by Jimmy. I disagree in that we are led to believe at first that Eve Tessmacher is, kind of insubstantial and flighty and just obsessed with like fashion, and then you realize like, oh no, she's been like a stealth secret agent all along, when you see what her selfies are revealing in the background. So I do think there's more to her, at least, than other people. And Hawk Girl's a badass, as we mentioned earlier.
I think, yeah, the idea of influencer as mole, I think, is a really fun plot twist. And the joke of Jimmy like treating her like an annoyance is, I think the joke is on Jimmy, because at some point somebody finally says to her like, she's hot, and he's like, is she? So like, I don't know if they're are they setting up like an asexual Jimmy Olsen? I don't know, but the idea that this nerdy guy has this like hot woman who's like trying to get his attention, and he's not having it, but at the same time she's also like undermining Luthor's empire from within. I think that's an interesting character.
Yeah, that speaks to how shrewd she is and how clueless he is. More than anything else, I would argue. David says, I'm glad we see a Superman that isn't afraid to ask for help, because it makes it more realistic and very relatable. Yeah, and that he needs help from other people.
And that Lois isn't afraid to do that on his behalf when he's incapacitated, when he's off in the pocket universe, that she'll just march right into that Hall of Justice and be like, hey, time to go on a rescue mission, guys.
I love that building, by the way. I guess that is a train station in Cincinnati, is what I understand. It's gorgeous. It is so striking.
You know what it's a reference to, right?
It looks like
on the Super Friends cartoon.
Friends.
Yeah, the Hall of Justice.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, the facade.
But real life.
Yes.
And Seth says Hawk Girl is there to set up her own movie later and to leave you wanting more. I thought that was just the right touch of her, and we had a lot of Mr. Terrific, like all those figures we're going to see more of. I thought that was just the right amount. And as you mentioned earlier, with like Marvel movies, they often do feel too crammed, and you forget like, oh right, so and so is in this. Oh right, so and so is in this. But that felt like just the right balance for me, at least.
Yeah, and we're getting a Supergirl movie too, right? I think is also in
June 26th of 2026 is when Supergirl comes out. We also had some John Cena in this. That was kind of fun. Speaking of other cameos.
And apparently Superman is going to turn up on the next season of Peacemaker. So
okay, that'd be cool.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that is really, really great. We should talk about also the post-credit scenes. We didn't get into those really at all.
Right.
There's like a mid-credit scene with Crypto, which is cute. And then there is, and I love the one at the end with him and Mr. Terrific, like sealing up the rift, and it being like not quite perfect. The Virgo in me definitely related to that. And there's Superman saying, "Gosh, I can be a real jerk sometimes." That was cute.
The seam.
Yeah, I liked all of that. Thank you very much from that guy over there. Thank you for your kind donation. Thank you. That guy saying, my daughter was born the day after my wife and I saw Superman. Really glad we got to see this, since we won't get to the theater for a while. That is wonderful. Congrats to you. And what a nice memory, right? Like you're one of the last things that you guys did. I wonder if your wife felt kicking, like I know when I was pregnant and like really pregnant with Nick, like I went to movies that were noisy. Like there was a Terminator movie that came out in 2009. I can't remember which Terminator it was, but it was like he was like bam bam bam, like he could definitely feel it. So I wonder if your wife felt any of that. Kenobi1013 says, I'm surprised Lex thought he could get away with this without anybody leaking his involvement. He has enough employees directly linked to his machinations to start a small country called Luthoria.
Well, they signed an NDA, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's a cult, right? They all dress the same. They all the cult of Lex Luthor. They're all kind of
in the same way that Meta is, I suppose.
Yeah. What have we not gotten to yet that you guys would like to talk to? Alonso, what have I not mentioned yet that you would like to get to?
I was just you mentioned Luthoria, which is kind of, reminds me of Luthor's scheme in the 78 Superman with the, sinking California in the ocean and turning the desert into, the beachside property in Otisburg. There is an Otis on his team, but much smarter than Ned Beatty's character. And Miss Teskmacher is, that's also a shout out to 78. So
right. Hackensack. My mother lives in Hackensack.
Yeah, not anymore.
So some people have said this is the best Superman they've ever seen. I've seen that comment among our review comments. How would you guys rank this compared to the original Superman, compared to Superman 2? Where would you put it, Alonso?
It's hard for me to be objective about Superman 78 because, I was 11, and I was super excited about it. And I was telling the story recently that, when Star Wars opened in 1977, I didn't know what it was going in, but obviously saw it and it blew my mind and whatever else. But I knew what Superman was going in, and so that was probably my first exposure to an IP movie where it's oh shit, it's comics and the big screen and they're treating this seriously, so that was a real thrill for me as a kid. And so if I watch it now, to some extent, I'm always watching it through those eyes. So I would say if I've seen people say, "Oh, this is the best Superman of my lifetime." Like, oh, so you were born after 1980? Okay, I see what you're doing here. I'm not mad at anybody who says it's their favorite. I think these things are very subjective, and it's hard to sort of coldly put them next to each other and say which one's a better movie. I think they both got great things in them. They both got flaws, but I think the first Superman, the first Donner Superman, and this one are both really great.
I do too. And Superman 2, I think about a lot, with Terrence Stamp as Zod. I think that kind of balances the dark thrills with also just the fun lightness of this world. And I mean, the effects in retrospect look super cheesy. It was 1980,
they were cutting edge at the time.
Yeah. We have a question here from Leo. What are some things that you guys would ask James Gunn to improve on for his next film? I don't know. I don't have any complaints, really. I thought it was pretty great.
Yeah, I'm never in a position of I think telling a filmmaker what to do. I might have a few things to say about what they've already done, but I would never be as presumptuous to be like, you should do bleh, I don't know. Again, I will say, go listen to Mac's film, because Michael's 3 very small suggestions are like, oh yeah, that would help, and that would help, and that would be good too, but they're very kind of little addenda to scenes that already exist in a way.
Yeah, Meister Kleister Heister says, for me, it's my fave Superman film. He's just so nice and lovable, though I might still prefer Reeve as the character. I mean, those are tough shoes to fill.
Sure, no question.
But he's striking that same kind of tone, the goodness that shines through him, the wholesomeness is in the same vein, which is different from the Brandon Routh portrayal or the Henry Cavill portrayal.
George Reeves even.
Yeah. Seth says Superman 78 brought us the John Williams theme, and that alone makes it great. And I love how they use pieces of that here. They don't bring it back exactly the same, but it's recognizable, and they expand on it in ways that were thrilling.
Yeah. Again, I said in my review, I think this movie is more judicious in its quoting of John Williams music than the new Jurassic Park or World is.
Where it's just straight up here's a song Wayne says Superman 2025 is better than 3 and 4, but that's it.
That's a low bar. And I have a fondness for 3. I know it doesn't work and it's dumb, and they're turning it into a comedy, but there are bits of that movie that I think about to this day. 4, I've still never seen, because the bits I've seen of it are like, oh, I figure it's best for all involved if I just pretend that would never happen, as much as I love canon films.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think I've ever seen 3 or 4. Are they terrible?
Well, 3 is the Richard Pryor one.
Oh, okay. Maybe I have.
It is aggressively goofy, but I really like I like Pamela Stevenson as the sort of ditzy, but not actually ditzy, hanger on to Robert Vaughn's supervillain. And then 4 is the one where like Christopher Reeve really wanted to make a movie about, an anti-nuke movie, which sure, why not? But they made it with Canon, and it was like they were cutting costs like crazy, and it's just apparently really shoddy.
Does it look terrible?
Yeah, that's what I'm told. Again, haven't seen 4.
Right. Christian says Superman 1, 2, and 3 are better. And there's an argument that Man of Steel is better too.
I'm sure. Yeah, look, I mean, everybody's got their druthers, and I mean, like, if you are down for Snyder's version of this character, then yes, obviously you're going to love Man of Steel and Batman v Superman more than this one, because this is a very different take. But I prefer this take.
Wayne says that he would cut the jokes by 50%. I think that worked because it's James Gunn's sense of humor. It didn't feel overwhelming to me.
I'm not mad at jokes.
Yeah, I had fun. Heather has a funny line. She says, "Does Dean Cain actually still professionally act, or does he just or does he just wait to insert himself into any Superman-related news cycle? Did he go on to like Fox News and say that this is a woke Superman or something like that? Is that what happened? Probably.
I'm sorry, you froze on me for a second there, so I missed the first.
Okay, no, Heather was saying that I think, does Dean Cain actually still professionally act, or does he just wait to insert himself into a Superman-related news cycle? I didn't see, but I can surmise. Did he like go on Fox News and talk about how this is woke? Am I losing you? Are you frozen?
He did, which is like old reliable there,
Yes. I'm afraid that we are freezing. No, now I hear you fine.
Turns, so.
Now I'm worried that we are freezing. So perhaps we should wrap up soon, although we have a lovely crowd of folks here. I don't want to abandon you. Yes. Sorry, guys. we are both not where we would be ordinarily. Caleb says, speaking of Man of Steel, what flaws did you guys
I don't know if you can see me or her or neither of us.
Are you frozen now too?
I was, when I freeze, you freeze. So who knows? I'm not sure which one is.
I put my hand upon your hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. So you know what, you guys? Maybe we should wrap it up in a sec, because sometimes you're freezing, sometimes I'm freezing, and that worries me that we are wasting your time. Like right now, I'm talking and Alonso is frozen, and so I think I'm going to wrap it up. Honey, can you hear me?
Okay. I can now, yes.
Okay. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. Although we've got a great crowd here, I don't want to make it weird for folks, because your time is valuable and it's no fun for you to be sitting here watching us talking to ourselves. If we did not get to, no, I don't know what's going on. Thank you. I want to say thanks real fast though to Key JX. Thank you for your kind donation. Are we back?
Thank you.
Why? Okay, so Key asks, why is Superman so scared of Krypto dressed in armor? Because he's Kryptonite. Yes.
See, jokes.
Like we got jokes. All right, we're going to wrap it up. I am so happy to see you guys today. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And I'm going to just leave it there. But if we did not get to your comment or your question, please put it down in the comments and we will get back to you at some point in time. Alonso, thank you for chiming in from South Carolina. Are you gone again? Oh,
really?
Shoot. Okay, this proves my point exactly. All right, so now I'm gonna wrap it up. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. And thanks for all your kind thoughts. And we'll see you soon. Bye.